Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezulu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Njengoba sonke sazi ukuthi kuyavotwa ngonyaka ozayo, kunama local government election ngo-2026. Bahlawumbisele lena ke ngoNovember kodwa abakaqinisekisi. Lokho kusho ukuthi ama-political party ngokwehlukana kwawo azophuma ekweshela abantu ukuthi awabavotele. Kodwa ngiyafisa ukusho lokhu kubani bakithi. Uma ngabe la uhlala khona kuphethe noma yipi political party, then i-service delivery ayenzeki. Ningalenzi iphutha noma bangakhuluma amazwi amahle kanjani. Ningalenzi iphutha lokuphinde nivotele labo bantu ukuthi babuyele emandleni. Nize ningalenzi iphutha. Futhi abantu aba-responsible for ukuthi i-service delivery, abantu aba-responsible for ukuthi empompini wakho kuphuma amanzi, abantu aba-responsible for i-waste, abantu aba-responsible for imigwaqo, abantu aba-responsible for ama-pothole, ama-traffic light, omasipala. Lama-elections azoba khona ngonyaka ozayo yiwona lawa afuneka lethi inguquko. Ilawa lethi inguquko. Ila abantu bakhona uma kwenzekile nanenhlahla nanomuntu okhathalela indawo yakini ngokuvotela umuntu oright, nibone sekwakhiwa umgwaqo, nibone amanzi niba nawo, nibone izinto ezinjalo sikuleso sikhathi. Futhi ngaphambi bangengene nje odabeni kaPresident Ramaphosa oba namhlanje uvumile ukuthi i-DA irana kangcono omasipala ukwedlula i-ANC. Angimazi umuntu osazovotela i-ANC ukuthi uzobeda ubuphi utshwala noma uzobeda iziphi idakamizwa kulezi ezikhona emhlabeni zingaka. Uma bona be-ANC sebezivumele bona ngokwabo, ngizokucaphunela ivideo dade ikhuluma namhlanje, ngiyazi ke isabalele einkundleni zokuxhumana, kodwa ngizokucaphunela inkulumo ade ikhulunywa ngolwesine eParliament ezokuvezela ukuthi yini le eyenza ukuthi abe-ANC uyamakhansela namameya wakhona angadelivi, eyenza ukuthi wena endaweni yangakini la kuphethe khona uhulumeni lokuphethe, whether i-IFP noma yini lo phethe, kodwa i-service delivery ingabibikho. Izokuchazela le video engizokucaphunela yona. Ngaphambi bangene kule video engizoyicaphuna, la kuhlala khona o-President uRamaphosa, la abahlala khona bona abantu abaphethe lapho i-DA, yonke into yakhona iyafunction. La ukuhlala khona bona ey'ndaweni lezi zomtaka abantu abahlala khona konje umakhelwane kaMalema, abantu abarana lawo municipality walapho i-DA. So uma kakhuluma ngedelivery yenziwa i-DA ukhuluma ngento ayaziyo ngoba la ahlala khona yena kuphethe i-DA. Ngicela uzwe la.
Comrades, it cannot and must not be acceptable that in our country we control a number of municipalities. It is hugely painful each time when the Auditor General comes to report to Cabinet and they put up their report, and those municipalities that do best are not ANC controlled municipalities. And I can name it here because there's nothing wrong with competition. They are often DA controlled municipalities. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that they are doing that is better than what we are doing? And there's nothing wrong with us saying we want to go and see what Cape Town is doing. We want to go and see what Stellenbosch is doing. How do they craft everything? We need to be moving up the ladder of being good at what we do. We cannot forever stay at the bottom. It hurts me deeply when I continue to see that our municipalities sometimes tend to move even backwards. And you are the people who can improve that. The audit outcomes are important. I'm told by the Auditor General that a number of our financial statements are not even prepared at the council level. They are prepared outside. And even as they come back, they are often wrong. Now, what it means is that we do need to get capable people. Our country is not short of people who understand numbers. It's not short of people who understand accounting. Let us go and get people who understand accounting. Unless we want the books to be cooked. And I would say, away with cooking of the books. Cooking of the books must end today. We must get people who can draft the books properly and present an audit outcome that is going to be in line with what is expected.
Uma umuntu ofana nami curious uyazibuza manje ukuthi athathwe lo muntu loyo ukuthi akamanage amabhuku. Akuzange kwa-check ukuthi unayo background ye-accounting. Uthathwe lo muntu based on which qualifications. Njengoba i-Auditor General ikhala ukuthi abasubmit makufuneka ama-statement. Uma futhi sebesubmita wrong. Kahle kahle lo muntu osuke eqashiwe, ngoba phela uqashiwe lo muntu udeployiwe. Lo muntu osuke deployiwe lapho akuzange bhekwa ama-qualification. Uyayibona-ke into esihlezi sikhala ngawo masikhala nge-cadre deployment yile. Uma kukhala nje nge-cadre deployment kukhalwa ngale. Kukhona ivideo engizokucaphunela yona la ekhuluma ngento ebuhlungu eyenziwa i-cadre deployment. Cela uzwe la.
I think actually, JJ, I think most people have mischaracterized the true cost of corruption. I don't think the true cost of corruption, rather let me say it differently, I don't think the most expensive line item in the cost of corruption, right, is what it's done to the economy. I think it's what it's done to sentiment and what it does to talent. In other words, when you corrupt a system, those less deserving get opportunities to which they are not deserving.
Entitled.
The problem is that those who are deserving pick up a little green document called a passport. They get on a plane
And go elsewhere.
and they leave. Now, there are some people watching this who go, no, they must go. 24 years invested and you're going to say he must just go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like because you're just flushing that investment down the drain.
And so, what's happened now, if it's not the semigration to the Western Cape, that's a separate conversation altogether.
Yeah.
It's the proper immigration.
Ngithi kwayona le cadre deployment i-corruption ngoba akusaqashwanga umuntu oqualified, akusaqashwanga umuntu onetalent ofuneka enze umsebenzi. Sekuqasha umuntu ngoba ephatha ikhadi lenhlangano ethize. Bese uyazibuza ukuthi kungani i-service delivery ingafiki kuwe. Yingoba umuntu ongene lapha akana idea nokuthi kufuneka enzeni. Futhi akazihluphi nanokwazi.
The former Statistician General, Padile Hotla, was making a very interesting observation regarding this energy matter that was raised. And he was saying, I'm not saying he was right, but this is what he said, that ESCOM is a big engineering institution. But also it's a big business. And he said, therefore, in terms of its leadership, you need engineers and economists. But instead, what do we have as its leadership? He said we have politicians and accountants.
Lento yasho Dr. Parili Hutla ibhlungu ngoba ulindele uthi ESCOM ifunction kodwa umuntu oyiphethe uyipolitician akana idea. Akhona abantu abangama engineers, qualified engineers abangayibamba abanekwanga ikhondla ngoba baphatha ikhadi le-right. Angikwenzela umzekelo. Ubaba usenza Mchunu bekaphethe i-Department of Water and Sanitation. Kulokhu nje uminister wamaphoyisa usewuye phela uminister wamaphoyisa obusahola ukuthi njengoba ukulive usathola wonke ama benefits wakhe. ubephethe amaphoyisa. Ngaphambi sifike ekuthenini nje ube nolwazi olungakanani kwezamanzi. Unolwazi olungakanani ngezamaphoyisa. Ngoba mhlawumbe akaze azabe na street committee. Akaze nje asebenze nje ku CPF, Community Policing Forum, ukuthi asebenzisane nomphakathi endabeni zobuphoyisa. Kodwa unikwe leyo position. Ibhlungu lana ke cater deployment ngoba kukhona abantu abacapable, kukhona abantu abanamakhono okwenza lezo zinto lezo, abakwazi ukwenza umsebenzi kahle, kodwa abanikwanga ithuba. Ibhlungu ke ngalento eyenzakalayo. Bese kugcineni kosuku kuthiwa omasipala abafunction. Bazofunctiona kanjani omasipala ngoba kwabantu ababekiwe ezikhundleni. Akubona abantu abafanele ukuthi babe seyikhondleni. Ngenxa yokuthi angifuni le video iphume kulesihloko lesi, bengizocaphuna uMMC lo Human Settlement lo we-IFP. Kunento ayishilo lapha ebalekile, kodwa uma ngase ngicaphuna ivideo yakhe izosuka bese iyaphuma le video kule sihloko ekhuluma ngaso, bikhuluma nge-ANC nanokuvuma kapresident wayo ANC ukuthi ANC yehlulwa i-DA. Manje uma ngase ngifake uMMC lo izokonakala le video. Angicaphenele eParliament ukuthi kuthiweni bese siyayivala ivideo.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, this report is about the delays in finalising the regulatory audits of municipalities and municipal entities. The delays are caused by certain municipalities not submitting their annual financial statements within the prescribed 3-month period, some municipalities not submitting financial statements at all. The Auditor General of South Africa submitted a report to the Speaker of the National Assembly to inform Parliament of these delays and to request the Speaker to refer the report to relevant committees for consideration and further action. Amongst these committees, the report was referred to the Standing Committee on the Auditor General. The committee deliberated on this report and received an in-depth briefing by the AGSA on this matter. It is important to note, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that the late submission or non-submission of financial statements not only constitutes non-compliance with the MFMA, but also adversely affects financial accountability, governance, and service delivery. It disrupts the accountability cycle by delaying audits and audit reporting, thus compromising transparency and effective decision-making. It also forces the AGSA to reallocate resources intended for provincial and national audits, thus creating operational pressures. Delays in audits undermine municipalities' performance in terms of their ability to effectively plan, budget, and deliver critical services, thus negatively impacting the lives of our citizens. It reduces accountability and transparency and thereby undermines trust and weakens public oversight. Persistent non-compliance impacts institutional integrity and points to weak governance structures and inadequate internal controls. This non-compliance is a symptom of the very dire state of local government, and the question must be asked, is this non-compliance, thus the poor financial record keeping and inability to prepare and submit financial statements, as a result of incompetence, or is it deliberate? Is it deliberate to avoid accountability? If one reflects on the list of non-compliant municipalities, and especially the repeat offenders in this regard, it is clear that there is a correlation between this non-compliance and extremely poor service delivery. The AGSA has appealed to Parliament to activate its powers to assist in addressing these ongoing challenges in order to strengthen oversight and improve financial accountability, governance, and service delivery in municipalities. These delays and this non-compliance is, at the end of the day, adversely affecting the execution of the mandate of the AGSA. There should be severe consequences for accounting officers who are responsible for these delays and non-submissions. The committee will, together with the Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and the Standing Committee on Finance, and in line with our individual mandates, interrogate the concerns identified, their impact, and engage the auditees in question and recommend interventions that may address these challenges. In this regard, such joint oversight visits to the Free State, Gauteng, and Northwest have already taken place and will be reported on. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Political parties wishing to make a declaration will now have an opportunity. The usual times will apply. The DA.
Deputy House Chair, honourable members, fellow South Africans. Our topic this afternoon is the financial management of municipalities, and the primary measure of how well municipal finances are being managed is the annual audit. The Auditor General has a responsibility to report to Parliament the names of municipalities whose financial statements have not been submitted for auditing within 4 months of their year end, in other words, by the 31st of October. And then the AG must continue to report on these delinquent municipalities to Parliament every 3 months. And the AG's second letter was sent in February 2025, and this brought to light that there were 9 municipalities which had still not completed, the audits had still not been completed. And I think it's worth naming them. There was Kopanong, Mohokare, Masilongana in the Free State, also Case in the Northern Cape, Mafube, Maluti A Pofung, and Machabeng, Msunduzi in KZN, and Kahisano Molopo in the Northwest, caused by safety concerns, mandatory quality control delays, and auditee-related delays. And as our chairperson said, the AG has appealed to us as Parliament to address this problem, and in particular, the committees for the AG, for cooperative governance, public accounts, and finance. The problem, obviously, is much wider than just the late submission of the financial statements. It's the poor financial management of the municipalities. And to illustrate this, if you look at those 9 municipalities in the last 3 years of audits that have taken place, between them, we've got 10 disclaimed audit reports, we've got 1 adverse audit report, we've got 14 qualified audit reports, and there are 2 audits which are yet to be completed. And at this stage, not a single unqualified audit report. And to quote the AG, the audit outcomes for these municipalities have remained largely unchanged over the years, highlighting persistent gaps in financial accountability, governance, and service delivery. And I'm going to put that in very simple language. These municipalities are badly run, they don't deliver, they aren't improving, and they can't be trusted. And so it's not surprising that within the last 6 months, 2 of the mayors of these 9 municipalities have featured in news reports, one for allegedly trying to bribe a supplier, and the other for allegedly abusing municipal resources and then lying to Parliament about it. So the question before us is, how do we clean up the financial management of municipalities? And here are 4 practical steps that we can implement and should implement to do just that. Firstly, we must insist on merit-based appointments to make sure that the financial administrators are properly qualified at these municipalities. Secondly, performance agreements are crucial. They must be implemented and tracked for municipal managers and all of their direct reports. And those who consistently fail to deliver must be removed. Thirdly, where there are financial irregularities, there must be thorough consequence management, including criminal charges where appropriate. And to make sure that this happens, it must be mandatory that disciplinary outcomes are made public. And lastly, there must be national oversight of the consequence management to make sure that local municipalities are following through properly when there are irregularities. So I think if we do these four things, it'll make a significant difference to the quality of the financial management in local government. But there's a more important issue, because at the heart of this problem, there's a leadership issue. There's a leadership problem. And where the DA governs, 90% of those 30 municipalities receive unqualified audits, and 80% of them receive completely clean audits. Now, contrast this with the record of other parties. Most of these are ANC-led municipalities. Fewer than half receive unqualified audits, and only 1 in 12 receives a clean audit. In other words, a DA-run municipality is 10 times more likely to receive a clean audit. But this is not just about audit results. It's about governance, systems, controls, accountability, the efficient use of resources, and it's ultimately about service delivery. It's little wonder that so many people are migrating long distances to escape failing ANC-run municipalities, to live in municipalities which are governed by the Democratic Alliance. I thank you.
MKP.
House Chair, Umkhonto Wesizwe Party would like to state without fear of contradiction that it attributes failures to submit financials to the HSA by the municipalities to weak political leadership and lack of political will to administer consequence management and fast-track service delivery. Highly qualified and experienced CFOs are appointed in municipalities. They are well conversant with the MFMA and the development of financials, yet every year the Auditor General struggles to receive submissions, and even when submissions are received, at times the debits and credits are not in order. At times, they are in direct contrast with what the AG finds on the ground. This persists simply because no consequence management is administered and for the lack of submissions. A fallacy which must be cleared is that the challenge of non-submissions has something to do with the capacity to deliver, when it is simply a tactical maneuver to evade accountability on the usage of public funds. It's an act of blatant disregard of regulations orchestrated by an organized syndicate of corrupt looting agents of the so-called GNU, masquerading as executives and political leaders for the sole mandate of squandering public funds, leaving our people languishing in abject poverty. In the recent visit to municipalities undertaken by the Joint Committee comprising of COCTA, SCOPA, and SCOEC, what was revealed is that despite full-time paid officials and executives in municipalities, millions are spent on using consultants to do financials which themselves still come out with disclaimer findings. It's another opportunity and avenue to continue looting funds without delivering any results. Over 80% of CFOs are in acting capacities in these municipalities. It's deliberately designed so that there's no stability and accountability. When you go there, you find that the CFO who was acting has been replaced with another one, and they blame the previous CFO. It is a designed and orchestrated syndicate to just evade accountability of public funds. It's a money looting scheme which must be destroyed. As we advocate, it's a money looting scheme which must be destroyed as we advocate for government to maximize internal capacity through the employment of qualified, dignified CFOs of integrity who are going to refuse manipulation by political parties and political leadership to do things that are unethical. Umkhonto Wesizwe Party contends that no intervention can remedy the situation for as long as the government of the day has a high appetite for corruption, incompetent, yet a low appetite for consequence management. As we gear towards local government elections, we call upon communities to liberate themselves from this tragedy of millions and billions in fruitless, wasteful, and irregular expenditures, which goes unaccounted for, yet taking away from the service they so desperately need. We make a clarion call to our people to put an end to this looting spree of criminal syndicates calling itself a government. The forest kept on shrinking, and the trees kept on voting for the axe because its handle was made of wood, yet they thought it was one of them. That's one of the African proverbs that we want to live with. I thank you.
EFF.
Honorable House Chair, today we face a critical issue in local governance. Recurring findings in the Auditor General's municipal audit reports. These are vital indicators of financial health, governance, and service delivery to citizens. These problems persist due to poor consequence management and weak political will for accountability, including late or missing audit submissions without penalties. Officials often enjoy political protection, and some are politicians themselves. For example, in Mfuleni municipality, a regional official also leads supply chain operations. These conflicts drive financial mismanagement, hindering duties and services. Municipal Public Accounts Committee structures and provincial standing committees on public accounts are often ineffective, led by heads responsible for mismanagement, writing off unauthorized spending without investigation, and encouraging ongoing malfeasance. The Auditor General has called on Parliament to use its constitutional powers to tackle these issues. Our committees must enforce House resolutions to stop erosion of fiscal discipline in local government. We must take decisive steps. The Standing Committee on the Auditor General, Portfolio Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and Standing Committee on Finance should jointly investigate concerns, consult auditees, and suggest interventions. Municipalities must appoint qualified finance experts rather than consultants who drain resources, deliver short-term solutions, and fail to transfer skills. We must bolster internal audits and protect them from political interference to detect irregularities early. We must blacklist fraudulent companies and officials to ensure accountability and bar them from public contracts. We must revise the municipal funding model, as heavy dependence on conditional grants limits financial independence and planning. The Auditor General should tie audit findings to both compliance and performance, viewing non-compliance as clear wrongdoing. Honourable House Chair, without firm action, mismanagement, impunity, and service failure will intensify. We in the EFF stand for the uncompromising principle to fight corruption, and that is exactly what must be done here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Into eyinkinga nje ka-ANC le kade ishiwo lo baba we-DA ayikho i-consequence management. Labantu abalapha baseyikhundleni ngoba bayazi ukuthi bangene ngekhadi le-political party, abangenanga ngoba be-qualified. Futhi okwesibili abathukile ukuthi athinga izibambe ziqine ngoba uma ngase ngenza iphutha ngizojeza. Uma ngase kube khona leyo nto leyo ungabona ziningi izinto ezingaguquka. So uma kusenje akuzukulunga. Futhi ANC ifuneka iphume emandleni noma engazama ngaziphi indlela zokuguquka. Funeka iphume emandleni. Kodwa lokho akube isifundo kwamanye ama-political parties ukuthi uma nibekwe ngabantu ukuthi sebenzelana abantu nasenithatha umuntu othi akanimele, ukwenza kahle kwalowo muntu lizonconywa iqembu lenu. Kodwa ukwenza kwabi kwalowo muntu loyo kuzokwenza ukuthi iqembu lenu likhulunywe kabi. Ngaleso sizathu yenzani isiqinisekiso sokuthi uma umuntu enikezwe umsebenzi ukuthi akawenze, uma engawenza akajeze. Consequence management. Angeke unikeze umuntu ithenda uthi akafaka amapayipi wamanzi, amapayipi angawafaki, imali ingabibikho kodwa amanzi awekho, aphinda yekwe lowo muntu loyo.Thi mase kubonakala ukuthi kunenkinga kuthiwa no kuzoba ne-investigation, sothatha i-SIU no SIU yani basiyamazi umuntu ebesimbekile samnika ithenda, funeka achaze kwenzakaleni phela nje. Iyona nto yenza ukuthi omasipala bethu bengafunction la abaphethwe lama-political parties wethu. Ngeviki eliphelele bekutoyitoya abantu bangapha komondlo, angazi umondlo mfrayede bebetoyitoyile abantu bakhona kukubi bekhala ngomasipala ophethwe i-IFP. bakhala ngoba into eyinkinga nje la hayi ukuthi abelungu bagavena kangcono kunabantu abamnyama. Umehluko abelungu into abayenze kangcono bathathe umuntu owazi ngalowo msebenzi bamnika le position ukuthi akawuphathe lowo msebenzi, ingakho bethola ama-results abetter. Ngenza umzekelo ngathi ubaba uSenzo Mchunu bekaphethe i-water and sanitation, manje uphethe amaphoyisa. Angazi noma kula ma-position omabili khona qualified kuwona wazi kabanzi na ngawo, angazi. Ngaleso sizathu-ke yiyo lento ubona ngathi bona bagavana kangcono. Sefuneka manje kuthatha umuntu o-right anikezwe i-position. Akuthathwa abantu aba-qualified. Bayeke ukuprioritize abantu iqembu kune-service delivery. Noma ngathi umuntu akazi lutho ngezepolitiki, kodwa uma kuthiwe usebenze ube municipal manager ngoba une-experience ekusebenzeni kwe-management, zake sakubona usebenza kuphi, ulethi inguquko sibone kwenzakalani. Then sowungabafaka-ke laba bezepolitiki babanga umsindo lapha ephalamende, kodwa bawubange bazi ukuthi umuntu obekiwe nabo futhi uma bengawubangi kahle bazoxoshwa, nalowo obekiwe lapho uma engenzi kahle uzoxoshwa. Asiyibambe le video, ngicela ukuze ukuphawula kwakho.